Assalamu alaikum, dear students of second year. Today we will read lesson number 2 of your book 2, Modern Prose and Heroes. The chapter or the essay is entitled Using the Scientific Method. It's written by Daryl Bernard and Lon Edwards. Let's begin with the text of this essay. All of us have benefited greatly from the use of scientific method in solving problems such as those dealing with the maintenance of health, the production and preservation of foods, the construction of our homes, and the improvement in communication and transportation. The writers start their essay with an example which is quite general for everyone, which is understandable to everyone. They have given us the example that of what kind of benefits we have got from the use of science, and they have referred to solving methods of solving problems, and we have maintained our health, we have produced and preserved foods, and we have constructed our homes. So everyone knows that we have used science to construct our homes, and the improvement in communication and transportation, and everyone knows that this is only based upon science that we have improved our communication with one another, and we have also improved our transportation system. Transportation means you all know very well, that is locomotion from one place to another. Not only have our ways of living changed, but people themselves have also been changed. So he refers to the reality that it is through the use of science that we have not only changed our living style, but also that we ourselves in person have changed. As human beings we have changed. Today we are better able to explain happenings which used to be considered strange and mysterious. It means that the use of science has also changed our behavior. It has also changed our I can say our thoughts. This is because of the science that once upon a time, when we could not explain the cause of any happening, any incident, but now we are able to give the reason why is something happening. Before that we used to say that why is it's strange, this is mysterious, this is strange, we cannot explain why it happened like that. But now we are able to give reasons for every happening, every incident. Although there is still need for improvement, we are now generally less fearful than our fathers and grandfathers were. He says that we are now less fearful of the things, of the nature, of the phenomena, of the hostile nature, or of the diseases, or many more things that we were fearful before. Now we are less fearful of those things. And he also acknowledges, he also admits, although there is still room for improvement, there is still room for improvement of our fears, that we should there will be time then we will eradicate all of the fears we have. But now in comparison to the previous times, we have improved, we have just let down our fears, we have quit our fears than before. We are also more critical in our thinking than our ancestors. And before, once upon a time, we just accepted whatever we got from our forefathers, whatever belief, whatever ideas, whatever thoughts, whatever chain of I can say school of thoughts or ideas, whatever. But now we are more critical, we see things more critically, we try to see the cause or the reason behind everything. But before that, whatever our forefathers told, we just accepted it as it is, we didn't question. Now we are in the habit of questioning, because we have got mind, and this mind is more bright now, it's more widened now because of the existence of science. This lesson should help you understand how the use of scientific method has improved living conditions and changed people. The writers tell the purpose of this chapter, this lesson, by telling you that their purpose is in writing this essay is to tell you people how scientific method has improved, how it has made better the living conditions of people, and it has also changed people's mind, their behaviors, their emotional attitudes, like that. It should also help you understand how you can make better use of the scientific method in your everyday living. The next purpose of this essay, they tell us, is that they want we people to be aware. We should understand how we can use the scientific method to improve our living conditions. So one purpose is to tell you that it has changed the living conditions of the people, and the second purpose is to make us aware, to make us understand that how we ourselves can utilize the scientific method. It will give us the idea how we can use the scientific method to improve many things in our lives. The first point they give is better control of disease. If you had been born 200 years ago, you would have had about one chance in 8 of living to be 1 year old. In other words, in those days, about 7 out of 8 babies died before reaching their first birthday. So it's strange for us. They are going to make a comparison of the previous times, that is 200 years ago, and the current times. Though we people might not know what happened in the previous times, in the previous 2 centuries, last 2 centuries, before last 2 centuries, what happened, but they are telling us, they are referring to that period, to that time, that in that time only one child out of 8 would survive for his first birthday. Suppose you had been an unusually strong little fellow and had lived through that first year. Very likely before you were 6 years old, you would have had smallpox, and by the time you reached the age of 12, you would undoubtedly have had measles, whooping cough, scarlet fever, and diphtheria. So he tells us that in those times, even if one was smart enough, even if one was strong enough, and even if one was healthy enough to survive for his first year, he would have got different kinds of diseases when he reached the year 6. That is, when he got 6, he got different types of diseases like smallpox, and by the age of 12 he would get measles, whooping cough, scarlet fever, and diphtheria. So these are the serious diseases one would get in the before last 2 centuries. One would get such kind of diseases. Even then, your battle for life was not over, and even one had passed his 12 years of age, the battle for life was not over. Yellow fever, the upcoming diseases he might face were yellow fever, malaria, typhus, cholera, typhoid fever, and even influenza. Once started, spread through a community, and these were the kinds of diseases which spread when once started in a community, that they were spreadable diseases. So life was most uncertain. So life was uncertain in those times. Before 200 years before, the life was so uncertain. A person who lived to be means it was not sure either one would stay safe, one would stay alive or not. A person who lived to be more than 30 years of age was indeed fortunate. It is unbelievable that such conditions could have existed so short a time ago. And the writers they tell us that if a person would reach the age of 30 years, it was reckoned to be so fortunate. It was thought to be so fortunate. So it was quite unusual for people to stay alive until the age of 30. And the writers comment here that it is unbelievable for us that we cannot imagine that such conditions would exist, were existing so short a time ago. He says that these 2 centuries are obviously so short a time. Today babies are born because the conditions we are living in nowadays, they are quite opposite, they are quite different from those previous times. So we feel that before this these 200 years ago, we feel that it is so short a time. We cannot believe that such conditions could exist, because the condition is quite opposite nowadays. Today babies are born in hospitals where there is little likelihood of their getting a disease. Young people are treated to protect them against smallpox, diphtheria and typhoid fever. Babies do not die too often as they are born in the hospitals, and the young people, they are also protected, they are also made safe from the diseases like smallpox, diphtheria and typhoid fever. Today a person can expect to live to be almost 70 years old. Before that, 200 years ago, a person's average life was of 30 years, and that was also quite uncertain that any person could live his life until 30 years. But now we have got the average age, human age of 70 years. In other words, more than 30 years have been added to the expected length of man's time. The writers tell us that more than 30 years before, 200 years before, there were as the age was 30 expected of any person, now it is 70. So 30 years have been added to the length of a man's time, man's life. These changes have been made possible by the use of the scientific method to solve such problems as the cause of diseases and its preventions. He says that the reason is that we have got scientific methods which solve our problems by telling us the causes of the diseases, and the scientific methods also help us to prevent those diseases. First of all, we can know the cause and we can avoid that cause to avoid that disease, to escape that disease. And next is, even if we have got any disease, we would get rid of that disease by preventing it, by making cures even, right? Then the second point is better sanitary conditions. It is difficult to imagine what sanitary conditions in some of our larger cities were likely like only 100 years ago. Now he refers to 100 years ago, the time of 100 years before. He says that we cannot imagine what kind of sanitary conditions were in those times. Into the narrow, unpaved and poorly drained city streets, household garbage and other refuse were thrown. He tells us, he explains to us that in the previous times, that is almost 100 years before, streets were narrow, they were unpaved. Paved means they were not properly made, and they were poorly drained. They were everywhere in the streets you would find wastewater like that. So in those type of city streets, household garbage and the other refuse were also thrown. Animals wandered through the streets feeding upon the garbage, and animals would wander through the streets and they would feed upon the garbage. This is all of this situation was there. It was prevailing 100 years before. Outdoor toilets were common 100 years before, and many of them situated where human waste drained into wells from which people obtain drinking water. And it's too problematic that people used to drink water from the wells which had drain of human waste. So this is obviously so difficult to imagine for us. It is so painful to imagine for us. Today our city streets are paved and well drained. Now he compares the previous times with the present times and explains the sanitary conditions of today. That is, today our city streets are paved, they are paved. Before that they were unpaved, now they are paved and they are well drained. There is no refuse, no waste you will find, wastewater you won't find, and they are cleaned regularly. And there are no household garbages because the streets are cleaned regularly on regular basis. It is against the law to throw garbage in the streets. Now it is the law nowadays that people cannot throw garbage in the streets. Sewage from all sections of a city is carried through sealed pipes to disposal plants. So sewage from all sections of a city is carried through sealed pipes. Now we have got a proper drainage system. We have got sealed pipes, and the sewage sweeps through. It flows through those sealed pipes. And through the use of the scientific method, it has been demonstrated that unsanitary conditions cause the spread of diseases like typhoid fever, cholera, and dysentery. The writers explain that it is only through the use of the scientific method we have known that we are now aware that it is because of the unhealthy and poor sanitary conditions that we can get the diseases which are the cause of diseases like typhoid fever, cholera, and dysentery. Today most city governments have departments of sanitation which keep the cities clean and thereby prevent the spread of certain diseases. Before that, it wasn't any custom, it wasn't any tradition for the governments and the different departments of the governments who can deal sanitation. But now we have got different departments in the governments who deal with the sanitation problems, and they keep the cities clean, and thereby they are helping us to prevent and to stop the spread of any diseases. A century ago, it was common practice in many cities to bring water by the bucketful for household use. Before 100 years, before this time, that is 100 years ago, people used to bring water to the cities for drinking through bucketful. Method means they used to bring water by the bucketful for household use. Water had to be carried a considerable distance from the well to the home, and there was a considerable long distance between the well and the home, and obviously we had to bring only a small quantity of water. We could only bring a small quantity of water because it was so he says it was because of the distance and because of the bucketful method of bringing water, it was therefore used very sparingly for bathing and cleaning purposes. Very small amount of water or very little amount of water was used for bathing and cleaning purposes. Often it came from sources that contained disease producing germs, and water was also, as you know, as sanitary conditions were not good, so the water of the wells, they have already told that it was used for drinking and it was used for purposes, so it was the source of germs, producing germs. Towns and cities today have now he comes to the conditions of water and like that today. Towns and cities today have water systems that usually provide water enough for household use. Now we have plenty of water for household use. One of the most important problems in the growth of cities has been to provide sufficient water to meet the many needs of an increasing population. So one of the most important problems in the growth of cities, and he says that for growing cities, for cities to grow, for the development of any civilization, for the development of any country, obviously we need water. We have to provide sufficient water to meet the many needs of an increasing population. Los Angeles has solved the problem by bringing water to the city from the Colorado River, 544 kilometers away, carried through a pipeline aqueduct. 1,000 million liters of water are delivered to the districts daily. This is a remarkable advance from the bucket system of supplying homes and with water. The writers have given us an example of a good water, good provision of water, good supply of water, and he has talked about the city of Los Angeles, that they have provided water, they have supplied water through Colorado River, and this is all this has been made possible by the use of the scientific method. Next is more food and better food. Changes have taken place too in our eating habits. Through the use of science, we have learned that it is healthful to eat many kinds of food, and we have learned how to provide ourselves with a variety of foods throughout the year. First, he says that we have learned that it is healthful to eat many kinds of food, that to bring variety in our food is a healthful activity, and we have learned how to provide ourselves with a variety of foods, and we have the scientific method has also told us that how we can get access to a variety of foods throughout the year. First of all, it has told us that it is healthy to eat the variety of food, to have variety in our food, and second, how we can bring that variety, it has also been possible through the scientific method. People who lived a century ago probably enjoyed eating as much as we do today, but they could not have as many different kinds of food. The writers tell us that although people in those times, that is 100 years before, they also used to enjoy food as much as we do, but they didn't have variety in their food. They didn't have many kinds of food at one time. Most of their foods had to be produced on their own farms or in their own gardens. People used to grow food, grew vegetables and different things in their own gardens. Since fresh vegetable could be obtained only during the growing season, people living in cold climates had none during the winter months, and obviously they used to grow fresh vegetables, and that was possible only in the growing season, that is the season specified for any specific vegetable. So people who lived in cold climates, they could not have any food in their winter months because they couldn't grow the food because of the weather. Thrifty housewives preserved their homegrown vegetables and fruits by canning, pickling, or drying them for use during the cold weather. And what was the routine? What was the custom with the household wives who were thrifty, who used to save money? That is, they preserved their homegrown vegetables by canning them, by pickling, or by drying them in cold, so that it can be used in the winter season. Meats were preserved by salting and drying. And how did they used to preserve meat? By salting and by drying or by freezing when the weather was cold enough. Seafoods were generally available only along the coast, and seafoods, only those people could access seafood who lived alongside the coast. Fish and shellfish could be eaten soon after they were caught, and they used to eat them and finish them immediately after they were caught, because they didn't have any scientific method to preserve the meat. Next is, regardless of where people live today, they can obtain some fresh fruits, meats and vegetables throughout the year. Now coming to the present times, now wherever the people live, they can obtain some fresh fruits, meats and vegetables throughout the year because of the transportation, you know very well. By the quick freeze method, vegetables, fruits, seafoods and meats of various kinds can be preserved so that they are both nutritious and enjoyable. So quick freeze method, vegetables, fruits, seafoods and meats of different kinds can be preserved through quick freeze method. Modern methods of selecting, grading and processing foods have removed the risk of danger of poisoning from canned foods, dehydration or the removal of water from such foods as milk, eggs, potatoes and apples has proved a practical method of preservation. So they are all the practical methods of preservation of food. So we can have food, we can have different variety of foods at different times of the year, in different seasons. So we do not have any fear of being short of food in any seasons, because we can preserve foods. Our eating habits are not the only things in our lives changed by the use of science, because we have used science to learn more about the process and materials in our surroundings and about the methods of controlling them. We have been able to improve our ways of building houses, our methods of communication and transportation, and even the way we spread our leisure time. So he has talked about some miscellaneous things which have been improved because of the scientific methods and because of the science. And he says that not only we have changed our eating habits, but also we have the science has changed our about the process and materials in our surroundings and methods of controlling them. We have improved our ways of building houses, communication and transportation. Better attitudes. By an attitude, we mean the way we feel towards some idea or some event. He says attitude means how we feel towards some event or some idea. If a person believes that wearing some kind of charm will prevent him from having bad luck, he will wear the charm and will feel uncomfortable without it. He gives an example that if a person believes that if he will wear something like charm like thing, he will be prevented from the bad luck, and if he ignores wearing that charm, he will be punished, or he will be uncomfortable, or he will have some loss. It is a kind of attitude actually. Feelings which involve fears such as this are called superstitions, and he says that such kind of feelings are called superstitions, and superstition is obviously one of the attitudes. Superstitious people believe in signs of good or bad luck, and their lives are greatly influenced by such signs. Obviously their life is badly, he has used the word greatly, but I would use the word badly. He means to say that they are badly influenced by such signs. Superstitious beliefs are being overcome by the use of scientific method to demonstrate that there is no sound basis for them. The scientific methods have told us that there is no basis, no ground for the things like superstitions. Few people today believe that diseases are caused by evil spirits. Nowadays there are very few people, a very short number of people who might believe that diseases are caused by evil spirits. Though astrology and fortune telling are still practiced, they do not influence the lives of many people as they once did. Though nowadays also we have got astrology, we have also got a trend for fortune telling, but they are not so much believed as they used to be before, and they are not influencing our lives as much as they used to do of the lives of the people of those times. It has been learned that there is always a good natural reason for everything that happens to people. The scientific method has told us that there is always a reason, a natural reason for everything that happens to people. So it is also it is not evil spirits or good spirits or good omen or bad omen which brings diseases or not. Rather it is only some reason, some scientific natural reason behind everything. As a result, most people no longer fear black cats, broken mirrors, and the number 13. People used to believe in such things before, 100 years before, but now people do not believe in black cats or broken mirrors or number 13. By the scientific method, it has been demonstrated that ideas are not necessarily true because they have been believed for a long time. Ideas must now be supported by facts in order to be acceptable to the scientist or to people who use the scientific method. Before that, I told you in the beginning of this chapter that people used to believe whatever they got from their forefathers, whatever ideas their forefathers had given them. They had transferred to them. They used to believe them as it is, but now people do not believe those facts, those ideas. Rather, we people, we the people of the scientific age, we are the people who demand facts, who demand some scientific facts behind any idea which is given to us. The discoveries of scientists have helped people develop an attitude of open-mindedness. Now we have got open-minded, we have got flexible, we are not rigid as before. They are more willing to look for new truths than to assume that what has been considered true will always be true. So we have opened the different dimensions to that. There might be, now we can believe, we can think that there can be some other reasons beyond what we are expecting. Because people have had to change their old ideas as a result of new discoveries made by the scientists, they are less likely to accept conclusions as final. So we do not have any final conclusions about anything. Now we keep room, we keep space for further truths, further facts, further realities to be open by the scientific methods. So this is all about the use of scientific method. Next is they have given us in this lesson we find notes. in which words are explained to you, difficult words are explained to you, and the coming page you get question answers that you are supposed to answer these questions. All of the questions would have their answers in this text, so you are supposed to find them, you are supposed to answer this question in the light of the given text. Okay, thank you. I hope that you have understood each and everything. See you later. Allah Hafiz.